has not yet addressed these allegations, despite ongoing requests for an explanation. This is not Kim's first rodeo with controversy. She has previously had to apologize for resume padding and allegations of academic plagiarism and stock manipulation, for which she has made no public comment. President Yoon has denounced these allegations, calling them a political stunt.
What kind of impact could this controversy have on President Yoon Suk-yeol's upcoming election?
This scandal is certainly proving inconvenient timing for President Yoon and his party as they prepare for a closely fought parliamentary election this April. It has escalated into a full-blown crisis, with Yoon's approval rate dropping to a 9-month low and 56% of people surveyed suggesting that Kim should publicly apologize for receiving the Dior bag. All eyes are on the situation as the ruling party battles to keep hold of power through this turbulent time.
It seems like a challenging time for President Yoon and his party. Thank you for the update, Greg. We'll be following this political scandal closely. Greetings. I'm Ruth Sterling with Soundly Human, bringing you a comprehensive guide to the Lunar New Year, one of the most significant festivals observed globally. Known as the Spring Festival, it marks the first new moon of the lunar calendar and spans 15 days. This year, it commences on February 10th. At the heart of Lunar New Year traditions is the Chinese zodiac, a 12-year cycle symbolized by different animals. Your zodiac animal sign corresponds to your birth year, with 2024 ushering in the Year of the Dragon. Zodiac devotees believe their fortunes are influenced by the positions of the stellar deities, known as Tai Sui. Among the many Lunar New Year folktales, the legend of Nian is particularly noteworthy. Nian, a fearsome beast, was purportedly scared away by red banners, firecrackers, and red clothing, forming the basis for current Lunar New Year traditions. Preparations for the Lunar New Year officially begin a week before the festival. Homemade festive cakes and puddings, known as gao or gu, are savored, symbolizing growth in the upcoming year. Houses are meticulously cleaned on the 28th day of the last lunar month, symbolically ridding homes of past misfortunes. And the practice of hanging red banners, known as Fai Chun or Chunlian, wards off bad luck and welcomes good fortune. Highlights of Lunar New Year celebrations include a family reunion dinner on the eve, an occasion often marked by the exchange of gifts and red packets, known as Hongbao or Lai Si, believed to ward off evil spirits. The first few days of the new year are typically busy with family visits and the exchange of gifts. Ancient customs persist, with Day 3 of the new year, named Redmouth, seen as a day to avoid arguments and instead visit temples to make offerings. On Day 7, known as Renri, communities across Asia serve different birthday foods to celebrate the creation of humanity by the Chinese goddess, Nuwa. The grand finale, Yuanxiaojia, or the Lantern Festival, arrives on the 15th day, traditionally marking the departure of winter. Lantern displays are set up worldwide, symbolizing a drive out of darkness and hope for the upcoming year. In some Chinese cities, elaborate fire dragon dances add to the vibrant festivities. Thus, the Lunar New Year, beyond a mere observance, is a profound cultural immersion that bridges tradition with the present, ushering in prosperity and unity. Moving to a concerning situation unfolding in Sudan. Internet connectivity continues for the third consecutive day of shutdown, significantly affecting the locals' ability to access healthcare, banking services, and safe zones. Violent clashes between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, have left thousands dead and millions displaced in nearly 10 months of fighting. Internet monitoring firm NetBlocks confirmed the telecommunications blackout in the country earlier on Friday. For more insight on this, let's turn to our reporter Greg Spear. Greg?
Thanks, Ruth. The Sudanese Foreign Ministry is blaming the RSF for the widespread communications blackout. It's a major crisis for the people already suffering, with the UN stating they are in dire need of humanitarian aid. Meanwhile, the RSF has not openly denied responsibility for the information shutdown.
Just how serious is the humanitarian crisis?
Ruth, the situation is indeed grave. The conflict of the past 10 months has displaced millions, many of them hungry and in desperate need of support. The UN has urged for immediate financial assistance of $4.1 billion to meet the most urgent needs, expressing the growing concern about the epic suffering in Sudan. Half the population, some 25 million people, need protection.
And how is the aid being handled amid this blackout and continuous war?
Regrettably, the ongoing war has severely affected the delivery of humanitarian aid. Attacks on aid workers and facilities have further disrupted the process. The Sudanese Armed Forces and RSF have both been accused of failing to honor their commitments to facilitate aid provision. However, in an attempt to deflect accusations, the RSF called on international organizations to provide urgent relief, claiming that the opposing forces were obstructing aid delivery.
What's the impact on the civilian population, particularly children, Greg?
Ruth, nearly 18 million people are facing the severe threat of hunger. Civilian infrastructure, such as water supplies, has been damaged by the fighting, with 3/4 of health services not functioning in conflict areas. About 19 million children are not attending school. The war has forced children to make up nearly 4 million of the people who have fled their homes. It's even more dire in the North Darfur Zamzam camp for displaced people, where at least one child dies every 2 hours from malnutrition, according to Doctors Without Borders.
Horrendous. How is the international community reacting to these alleged human rights violations?
Darfur region by both the SAF and RSF and their affiliated groups. The international community, Ruth, is witnessing a critical situation unfold with a strong call for immediate intervention. Back to you.
A deeply horrifying situation indeed. Thank you, Greg, for the comprehensive report. As this crisis continues to unfold, we'll keep our viewers updated with all innovative developments. This is Ruth Sterling from Soundly Human, bringing you an unfortunate yet significant story. Last spring, Idaho residents Jen and John Atkins found themselves faced with a heartbreaking decision. Jen was pregnant with a baby diagnosed with Turner syndrome, a disorder that led to a 90% chance of miscarriage and potential severe health risks for Jen herself, such as edema, high blood pressure, and preeclampsia. However, due to Idaho's stringent abortion laws, even in situations where the pregnant woman's health is at risk, the couple couldn't get an abortion without crossing state lines. Finding themselves compelled to navigate Idaho's complex abortion ban, which became operational when Roe v. Wade was overturned in 2022, they embarked on an out-of-state journey to Portland, Oregon. They noted that this not only required considerable time and expense, costing over $1,500, which was met only through help from family and abortion access funds, but it also felt dehumanizing. Their story is becoming increasingly common, as highlighted in a lawsuit filed against the state of Idaho by several other plaintiffs, including Dr. Julie Lyons, a family medicine physician in Haley, near Sun Valley. Lyons notes the discomfort in having to discuss life flight insurance during prenatal visits, anticipating pregnancy complications that doctors can't treat in Idaho due to these laws. Moreover, the ban is also driving away health professionals specializing in higher-risk pregnancies, causing a further healthcare crisis in the state. Jen and John Atkins' story underscores the urgent need for reevaluation and clarity regarding medical exceptions in Idaho's abortion laws. The lawsuit, filed by advocacy organization, the Center for Reproductive Rights, amplifies this demand. Denying the claims of medical professionals leaving the state due to the abortion law, Raul Labrador, the Idaho Attorney General, maintained that the state's healthcare system prioritizes safeguarding the lives of pregnant women. For now, though, Idaho residents like Jen and John Atkins continue to grapple with the harsh realities of the state's rigid abortion laws, their lives stationed at the forefront of a nationwide debate on reproductive rights. We hope their story exerts substantial influence in driving change toward more compassionate and comprehensive healthcare guidelines. Thank you for tuning in to Soundly Human. Today, we'll delve into the world of aviation safety, given the recent runway collision at Tokyo's Haneda Airport, and an incident involving an Alaska Airlines 737 MAX 9. Joining us is Greg Spear, who has been following the ups and downs of this unfolding story. Greg, tell us, should passengers feel uneasy?
Following these concerning events, it's understandable to feel a bit of uncertainty. But aviation safety expert Jeffrey Thomas tells us there's no need for panic. Despite recent troubles, Boeing has numerous checks in place, and he asserts he'd have no hesitation in boarding a Boeing aircraft.
That's reassuring. How do these recent incidents impact aviation's long-standing safety record?
Experts aren't dismissing these incidents, but they underscore that historically, flying gets safer as manufacturers and airlines improve systems and learn from mistakes. Two Boeing models, the 787 and 777-300ER, and several Airbus models, have never suffered any accident with fatalities. The industry is continuously working to keep improving safety.
Speaking of safety ratings, which airlines are considered safest?
Airline Ratings recently published its list with Air New Zealand, Qantas, and Virgin Australia topping the list among others. While incidents do occur, aviation is touted as the safest mode of transportation.
How do the Federal Aviation Administration and the National Transportation Safety Board factor in?
They investigate all incidents, like the Alaska Airlines event, and ensure that the necessary inspections are carried out before an aircraft is airline-worthy. Post-collision, Japan made changes to their air traffic control procedures, highlighting the process of learning and implementing improvements after incidents.
Put in perspective for us, Greg. How safe is flying, really?
A study by MIT's Arnold Barnett showed a significant reduction in the death risk per boarding from 2008 to 2022. The risk dropped to 1 death per 13.4 million boardings, far lower than some everyday risks like shark attacks. There are, however, disparities with regions like Asia, Africa, and Latin America having slightly higher rates.
Aviation safety certainly seems to have come a long way. It should be comforting for travelers, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, Ruth. Although some anxiety can persist, it's important to remember that aviation incidents are growingly rare. Focusing on personal safety measures on board and acknowledging aviation's overall improving safety trend can help ease concerns. In the grand scheme of things, aviation remains an incredibly safe mode of transportation.
Thanks for your insights, Greg. Indeed, flying safety is all about perspective. It's important to always look at the long haul, both literally and figuratively. We turn now to a tragic story from near Philadelphia. Authorities believe they've recovered the remains of all 5 family members from a burned-out home, and the one relative who is suspected to have caused this tragic incident. Greg, can you fill us in on the details?
Absolutely, Ruth. The horrifying event began on Wednesday. A grandmother identified Con Le as the man who began firing inside the home. After shots were fired, a fire was set, taking the lives of everyone inside, including 3 children.
What a horrific incident.
It is indeed, Ruth. Delaware County District Attorney Jack Stolzheimer has stated that they believe Con Le likely killed everyone before setting the fire. A DNA investigation is due to take place to identify each set of remains, as well as the manner and cause of death.
So, the authorities feel confident they have the whole story?
They do, Ruth. Authorities received a call just before 3:50 p.m. on Wednesday, reporting a child had been shot in the home. When officers arrived, they were met by gunfire, which led to 2 officers, David Sciazza and John Meehan, getting wounded. Luckily, they're both recovering now.
Just a senseless tragedy. So what's next for the investigation?
With the primary suspect identified and no survivors, the criminal investigation will be closed after confirmation. The home will be handed over to the city and is due to be torn down. Authorities are still working to determine the exact timeline of events and how the fire was started.
Thank you, Greg. All we can do now is send our sincerest condolences to the friends and family affected by this tragic event. In a significant win for climate scientist Michael Mann, a jury has ordered former scholar Rand Simberg and media personality Mark Steyn to pay over $1 million for defaming Mann's work. The lawsuit, stretching over a decade, was filed by Mann in 2012 against Simberg, Steyn, the Competitive Enterprise Institute, and the National Review. Simberg and Steyn had written blog posts mocking Mann's research on global warming and controversially compared him to convicted child molester Jerry Sandusky. The posts stated Mann has molested and tortured data in the service of politicized science. Further ridicule was leveraged against Mann's hockey stick chart. illustrating the sharp increase in average global temperature since pre-industrial times. The Washington, D.C. Superior Court jury awarded Mann $1 million in punitive damages and symbolic compensatory damages of $1 from each defendant. While the court dismissed Mann's case against the Competitive Enterprise Institute and the National Review in 2021, he plans to appeal this decision. In a statement, Mann said, "I hope this verdict sends a message that falsely attacking climate scientists is not protected speech." His lawyer, Pete Fontaine, lauded the verdict, calling it a victory for all scientists who dedicate their lives answering vital scientific questions impacting human health and the planet. Representatives for the defendants have yet to comment on the verdict. In political news, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s campaign is under scrutiny, as the Democratic National Committee has filed a Federal Election Commission violation complaint against it. The DNC alleges an illegal coordination with an outside group, recognized as American Values 2024, supporting Kennedy's presidential bid. The complaint lays out claims that this group is illegally assisting Kennedy in his signature gathering efforts, a compulsory step to access several states' presidential ballots. Regrettably, questions and disputes have arisen over the campaign finance laws surrounding these actions. Let's explore further. Greg, what can you tell us about these allegations?
Yes, Ruth. These allegations are delicate. The complaint states American Values 2024 is violating campaign finance laws by directly coordinating with Kennedy's campaign on ballot access endeavors. Such contributions from the group to aid the signature gathering efforts could be seen as dubious under federal law. However, both RFK Jr. and his campaign manager deny these claims. Kennedy stressed in a social media post, defending his campaign and reiterating the transparency of his actions. Further, the campaign manager stresses that they have never received any in-kind contributions from American Values or any PAC.
It's quite a serious complaint, isn't it? The DNC seems to tie the signature gathering disputes with the former president and his aiders.
Certainly, Ruth. The DNC has explicitly mentioned its concerns about supporters of the former president, like Republican mega-donor Tim Mellon, giving large contributions to the Kennedy-aligned PAC, referring to the situation as an attempt to subvert election laws by propping up Kennedy as a stalking horse.
Definitely a situation to keep a close eye on as the presidential race heats up. Thanks for the details, Greg. The NFL's most recent powerhouse, with 2 Super Bowl victories under their belt and playing in their 4th within a span of 5 seasons, is set to return to the grandest stage of them all this Sunday, Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas. This marks their 2nd Super Bowl appearance in consecutive years, setting them up for a potential accomplishment not seen in the NFL in 2 decades: securing back-to-back championships. Last year, the Chiefs clinched victory in an enthralling game against the Philadelphia Eagles, bouncing back strongly in the playoffs against a challenging regular season. Nevertheless, protecting the prestige of Vince Lombardi Trophy warrants exceptional strategy and tenacity that even the legendary franchises sometimes struggle to demonstrate. The 1990s Chicago Bulls and the late 90s New York Yankees both celebrated three-peat victories, but with the single-game elimination structure of the NFL postseason, retaining the championship is a daunting task. Only 7 teams have achieved consecutive Super Bowl victories so far, with the Pittsburgh Steelers being the only franchise ever to achieve this feat twice. In comparison, repeat championships in the NBA have been more frequent, with the Lakers achieving this twice since 2000, and the Miami Heat and Golden State Warriors securing back-to-back titles within the past decade. In the world of soccer, only the acclaimed Real Madrid team, led by Cristiano Ronaldo, and Spain's national team, have been able to establish a 3-year winning streak since 2000. The former in UEFA Champions League, and latter in international championships. The Chiefs are now poised for another opportunity to bring home back-to-back Super Bowl titles, having triumphed in Super Bowl 54 against San Francisco 49ers, and later relinquishing the title to Tom Brady's Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Can they muster up the necessary resilience and strategy to beat the odds and join the elite club of back-to-back champions? That's the story we'll be watching unfold this Sunday. To our global affairs now. The West African Regional Bloc, ECOWAS, is urging the military-led governments of Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali to reconsider their recent decision to exit the political and economic alliance. This action came about as a result of the bloc's appeals for these countries to restore constitutional order, following a series of military coups. Over to our correspondent, Greg Spear.
Thank you, Ruth. The three countries' self-designated military leaders made their joint announcement to quit ECOWAS on the 28th of January, a decision that threatens to further weaken the bloc, which has been grappling to curb a regression of democracy since the military coup in Mali back in 2020. Now, the ECOWAS Mediation and Security Council convened in Nigeria's capital Abuja to address this contentious issue and also a brewing electoral crisis in Senegal, where the stalled presidential vote has stirred domestic outcry and international concern.
Quite alarming indeed, Greg. What is the ECOWAS stance on these departures?
ECOWAS's stance is somewhat firm, Ruth. Council Chairman Yusuf Maitama Tugger made it clear that the junta's withdrawal would inflict more hardship and harm upon the citizens of those three countries, hence the plea for them to remain. It's also indicative of a re-energizing of their diplomatic efforts for dialogue and reconciliation. ECOWAS Commission President Omar Touré characterizes the junta's decision as impulsive and negligent of the official exit rules. However, he did not specify which withdrawal conditions were ignored.
And what does this mean for the citizens of these three countries and their ability to interact with neighboring states?
Excellent question, Ruth. An exit from the bloc potentially complicates things for the millions of individuals from these nations who have settled in adjacent states, as ECOWAS permits visa-free travel and work rights. A prompt withdrawal suggests imminent issues tied to trade and service flows worth nearly $150 billion a year, putting the livelihoods of many citizens at risk.
We'll have to watch this space closely. Thank you, Greg. In a thrilling discovery, a piece of history from the World War II era was unearthed in Florida this week. A construction crew, while laying the groundwork for what will soon become the Wilton Simpson Technical College, stumbled upon an inert M65 ordnance, a type of bomb, near the Brooksville-Tampa Bay Regional Airport, BKV. Hernando County Sheriff Al Ninhuez conveyed that, despite the decayed state of the bomb, it was challenging to immediately discern its status as live munition or inert. However, bomb experts from Citrus County and MacDill later determined it to be harmless on Tuesday. Historical records remind us that the Brooksville Army Airfield was an integral part of World War II operations. Established in 1942, it served as a training ground for pilots and, interestingly, bomb squadrons, just like Tampa's MacDill Air Force Base and Drew Army Airfield. Thus, it's likely that this relic is an intriguing leftover from this bygone era. In the news today, CNN has learned that the White House has been hosting an unprecedented series of election security drills. In preparation for the 2024 presidential race, senior national security officials gathered to discuss potential cyber threats. They reportedly delved into an array of hypothetical situations, including the emergence of fake AI-generated videos targeting candidates and violence at the polls. Our reporter Greg Spear has been following this story closely. Greg, what more can you tell us?
Ruth, these threat simulations have left top officials wrestling with difficult questions. How will the government tackle deepfakes? How should it respond if violence erupts on Election Day? If an AI-generated video emerges and the source is uncertain, should the public be informed? As it stands, they're in uncharted territory. The threat surfaces are vast: the disinformation potential of AI, the targeting of election officials, the possible need to respond swiftly to foreign operations targeting the election, and the legal limitations that exist if American citizens might be involved.
So what tactics are federal officials leaning towards to respond to these potential threats?
According to sources, they're considering a rather muted approach, Ruth. There seems to be a preference to let the public messaging be led by state and local governments. This stratagem aims to combat mounting skepticism and distrust towards the federal government among some voters. However, they are aware of the delicate balance they must maintain, as not all state or local governments might have the resources to effectively combat such disinformation. Key examples include Nevada, still determining how to tackle AI-generated fakes, given budgetary constraints.
The question remains, how equipped is the U.S. to combat election interference?
Therein lies the crux of the issue, Ruth. The Senate Intelligence Committee reportedly received a briefing from various federal agencies about their preparation for election security. And although the administration insists that it is a top priority, there are still unresolved questions regarding their approach to AI-generated deepfakes. The reality is, as we head into the next election cycle, there's a simultaneous sense of urgency and caution.
In the latest travel news, a European airline has introduced a new policy that has got passengers talking. An iconic luxury train ride is branching out to a new destination, and Ukraine's railways continue to function despite national conflict. The Venice Simplon Orient Express, one of the world's most prestigious train routes, will be making a never-before-made journey from Paris to Italy's Ligurian coast in June 2024, offering the ultimate in luxury travel for a hefty price tag.
That's right, Ruth. This glamorous and iconic trip along the Ligurian coast will not come cheap, as it's estimated at an impressive $8,500 one way. Over in Slovenia, a historic train route connecting it with Italy is being revived to support high-speed service, contributing significantly to their transportation infrastructure. Down in South Africa, a stationary train, Kruger Shalati, the train on the bridge, offers a unique and immobile hotel experience, offering guests breathtaking views of some of Africa's big five game animals.
How fascinating. And in Ukraine, the railways are proving vital for the country's ongoing conflict, it seems.
Absolutely, Ruth. The railways have become a lifeline in Ukraine, serving as a crucial mode of transportation for long-distance journeys, especially when air travel has proven risky or impossible over the past 2 years.
From trains to planes now, the latest celebrity air travel buzz surrounds Taylor Swift, who appears to have found herself in the middle of a private jet usage tracking controversy.
Yes, Swift's team threatened legal action against a student tracking her private jet usage, creating quite the trend in celebrity air travel news. Swift herself has allegedly sold her Dassault Falcon 900 LX, but is expected to use her larger Dassault Falcon 7X to fly her to the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. She may face challenges with parking and jet lag, common issues for both celebrities and average travelers alike.
In other aviation updates, European airline Finnair has started weighing passengers before takeoff. Can you tell us why?
The airline is trying to refine weight estimates and adjust it by season, with the added weight of passengers' winter coats included. In a heartwarming turn of events, carry-on bags and warm passenger coats helped save 6 flamingo eggs aboard a flight from Atlanta to Seattle when the eggs' incubator malfunctioned. The baby flamingos are now thriving at Seattle's Woodland Park Zoo.
That's a lovely story. Lastly, any tips for those looking to escape the crowds when traveling?
Absolutely, Ruth. Mexico's Riviera Nayarit on the Pacific coast and the archipelago of Zanzibar off the coast of East Africa are making some waves in the travel world. Both boast low-density populations and an array of luxurious tourist accommodations for those looking for a peaceful and exclusive travel experience. And don't forget your versatile beach tote that can double as a carry-on bag.
Excellent tips, Greg. Thank you for covering all these travel updates. Now, on to some cultural news. The Lunar New Year celebrations are on the horizon. Stay tuned for your Chinese zodiac fortune predictions for the Year of the Dragon, and learn more about China's stunning dragon dance tradition. We're turning now towards an unexpected shakeup in Pakistan's general election. Independent candidates affiliated with jailed political leader Imran Khan's party, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, or PTI, have stunned observers as they emerged with the majority of seats in the National Assembly. For details on this, let's go over to Greg Spear in Islamabad. Greg, what more can you tell us about this surprise victory?
Ruth, the Election Commission of Pakistan has reported that independent candidates have won 98 seats so far, while the political giants like the Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz Party, or PMLN, and Pakistan People's Party, earned 69 and 51 seats respectively. There are, however, still 22 seats unclaimed. Many of these independents are affiliated with Imran Khan's party, putting them in a pivotal position, but certainly short of gaining unilateral control.
What are the ramifications of these results for Pakistan's future governance?
Well, Ruth, the reality is that none of the 3 major parties will achieve the 169 seats necessary for a parliamentary majority. This has left the country in limbo as to who will be appointed as the next prime minister. However, one thing we do know is that the eventual government will be a coalition.
There's been some controversy with this election, hasn't there?
Indeed, Ruth Khan, who's been behind bars since August, has been using AI to get messages out to his supporters. His AI-generated speech claimed victory and called for protesters to protect their vote in a peaceful way, amidst allegations of vote rigging and a slow vote count. But these allegations don't just extend to vote counts. Khan has accused the military of orchestrating his removal from office last year, adding a significant layer of tension to these proceedings.
Describe the situation on the ground for us.
Ruth, protests have already broken out over these contentious elections, with 2 people killed and 24 injured in Shangla during a confrontation between Khan's supporters and police. The PTI party has organized a protest outside polling offices on Sunday, calling for protests to be peaceful and lawful.
So, what's next in Pakistan's political landscape?
It's uncertain for now, Ruth. The election's outcome has rattled traditional political roles and generated sizable international concern about fairness and transparency in the process. With economic uncertainty, frequent militant attacks, and climate catastrophes looming large, the path forward for Pakistan is not an easy one.
Absolutely, Greg. A complex situation unfolding in Pakistan. Thank you for your insight. We are stepping into some exciting news for all you Grey's Anatomy fans out there. Primetime's longest-running TV medical drama is rolling out the red carpet for its 20th season next month. The prolific show will be welcoming back a familiar face to the halls of Grey Sloan Memorial Hospital. Jessica Capshaw, who once hung up her scrubs after appearing in 10 seasons of the show, is making a comeback as the beloved character, Dr. Arizona Robbins.
That's right, Ruth. Capshaw, celebrated for her portrayal of Arizona, a pediatric surgeon who was half of one of television's most admired couples, is all set to place her footprints back in Grey Sloan Memorial Hospital. It seems we are in for quite the nostalgic ride.
And speaking of her on-screen romantic liaison, any whispers on the fate of her relationship now?
There definitely are hopes that her return, minus her one-time partner, will throw some light on the status of that relation. Also adding to the excitement is the return of another hallowed character, Dr. Nico Kim, played by Alex Landy. All eyes will also be on new face, Natalie Morales, known for her roles in Parks and Recreation and Dead to Me, who steps in as pediatric surgeon, Monica Beltran.
When can fans expect all this to unfold on their screens?
Mark your calendars, viewers. The grand return is set to unfurl on Thursday, March 14th at 9 p.m. on ABC, and will be streaming the next day on Hulu.
Surely many viewers will be excited to see these characters return to their beloved show. Thank you for the update, Greg.
Pleasure to bring the exciting news to our audience, Ruth.
In our top news today, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has ordered plans for the evacuation of the population from Rafah, a densely populated city in southern Gaza, according to an official statement released on Friday. Around 1.3 million residents, most of whom are displaced from other parts of Gaza, may be affected by this operation. Notably, Rafah is perceived as Hamas's final stronghold. Netanyahu stressed the difficulty of eliminating Hamas while maintaining military presence in Rafah. Understandably, the mass evacuation could trigger massive displacement of Palestinian people. Satellite imagery reveals a significant expansion of a tent city in Rafah within weeks, reflecting the exodus from combat zones. Meanwhile, the Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas' office issued a statement condemning the military escalation plans, terming them as a dangerous prelude and a real threat. Residents of Rafah have voiced their fears to CNN, expressing concerns over possible shortage of supplies and the lack of alternative havens. Brigadier General Dan Goldfuss of the IDF's 98th Division shared that no concrete plans for minimizing civilian deaths have been laid out yet, even as President Joe Biden criticized Israel's previous actions as over the top. The American president also stressed the need for humanitarian aid in Gaza. Meanwhile, UN spokesman Stefan Dujarric expressed deep concern over civilian safety in Rafah, given the city's dense population, stressing the unacceptability of forced displacement. This warning was echoed by the Norwegian Refugee Council, which envisages Rafah soon turning into a zone of bloodshed and destruction that people won't be able to escape. Stay tuned for detailed coverage and analysis on these developments. Up for discussion, we have an incredible story out of the Dutch Third Division Soccer League, where goalkeeper Lars Janssen unknowingly scored a long-range goal from his own half-leading Noordwijk team to a 3-1 victory over Amsterdam FC. This was a critical play that sent shockwaves through the stadium, setting Noordwijk on the path for a win. Greg, how exactly did this happen?
Quite an amazing and rare phenomenon, Ruth. The game was evenly poised at 1-1 when Janssen, seeing a pass being played towards his goal, ran out of his area to clear it and was knocked down by Amsterdam's forward Marciano Mengerink in the process. Even as he lay face down on the ground, the ball flew nearly the full length of the field, bounced over opposing goalkeeper Gijs van Zetten, and nestled into the goal.
You mentioned Janssen didn't realize he'd scored. What was his reaction once he found out?
His disbelief was apparent, Ruth. Even his teammates celebrated his unexpected achievement by rushing to him. In a post-match interview with Dutch outlet Voetbal in De Bolenstreek, Janssen admitted he didn't see his goal due to the collision. He laughed off the fact that it wasn't a deliberate goal, adding that it's rare for him to score, but when it happens, it's worth savoring. This, he disclosed, was his first goal as a goalkeeper, a position usually known more for stopping goals rather than scoring them.
Certainly a night Janssen and his teammates will never forget. Truly one for the soccer history books. In a fresh bout of controversy for social media giant TikTok, former senior executive Katie Puris is filing a lawsuit against the company, alleging gender-based and age-based discrimination during her tenure. Puris alleges uneven expectations, retaliation for airing her concerns, and a lackadaisical response to an incident of sexual harassment at a work event. This is not the first time TikTok has been accused of discriminatory practices, with former Black employees filing a complaint just last September. Despite being the head of global brand and creative, Puris alleges she was subjected to differential treatment for not fitting the stereotypical female mold and not being pliable and innovative, as per the preference of company seniors. Furthermore, Puris alleges the severe stress of the workload led to multiple team members going on medical leave, with the company implying her own leave would affect her compensation. The lawsuit also claims retaliation, in the form of poor performance reviews and a reduced team size, following complaints about discrimination and workload. During a company event, Puris reports sexual harassment from a business partner's employee, leading to insufficient action from TikTok's ethics team. Amid ongoing scrutiny over the company's connection to Chinese parent company ByteDance, Puris complaints highlight the continued control of certain departments by ByteDance leadership. With an already beleaguered image, the allegations brought forth by Puris add more fuel to the ongoing debate surrounding workplace practices at TikTok. We turn our attention now to the milestone ruling in a high-profile trial that may have far-reaching implications for gun-owning parents across America. Jennifer Crumbley was convicted earlier this week on 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, following last year's mass shooting at Oxford High School, Michigan. A tragedy perpetrated by her son, Ethan. The father, James Crumbley, awaits his trial on similar charges. Let's check in with Greg Spear standing by for more on this. Greg, how could this verdict potentially impact James Crumbley's trial, set to start on March 5th?
Ruth, legal analysts are believed that similar charges and evidence against James Crumbley could have the same outcome as his wife's trial. However, certain elements differ. For instance, James was the one to physically buy the firearm patented in the crime, and he was portrayed as the one responsible for securing firearms within their home. His knowledge of their son's mental health issues will also be highlighted. How knowledgeable he was on these will be a critical focus during the trial.
Greg, what repercussions do you think this might have for gun-owning parents around the country?
Prosecutors argued that James demonstrated gross negligence in giving a gun to his son and failing to secure mental health services for him, despite clear warning signs. If convicted, this could set a legal precedent that parents may be held liable if a minor child commits a violent act with a firearm provided them amidst signs of psychiatric stress.
What's the latest on the role Jennifer Crumbley played in this horrific event?
Prosecutors painted Jennifer Crumbley as an inattentive parent, neglecting her son's mental health and being dismissive of his cries for help. They also highlighted her as the last adult with the firearm before the incident, a point the jury seemed to focus on.
And the defense strategy for James Crumbley? Any insights?
It remains uncertain whether James will follow the path of his wife in taking the stand, be it blaming others, including his wife and son, for the tragedy. Some speculate he may consider accepting a plea deal to avoid trial altogether. His defense team will likely take cues from his wife's trial, adjusting their strategy accordingly.
Thank you for those insights, Greg. This certainly remains a case for the nation to follow, as it may redefine legal responsibilities for parents of troubled, gun-owning children. Stay tuned for more updates on the Crumbley case as they unfold. In the recent devastating accident on Interstate 75 near Naples, Florida, 2 people have been tentatively identified as the pilot and second-in-command. The small plane that they were operating crashed into a vehicle on Friday afternoon, killing both. The incident happened shortly after the pilot reported an emergency to an air traffic controller.
That's correct, Ruth. The victims have been tentatively identified as pilot Edward Daniel Murphy, 50, of Oakland Park, Florida, and second-in-command Ian Frederick Hoffman, 65, of Pompano Beach, Florida. They were on board a Bombardier Challenger 600, along with 3 other individuals when it tragically crashed around 3:15 p.m.
And do we have any updates on the other passengers?
Indeed, the survivors of the plane crash, crew member Sydney Ann Bosmans, 23, of Jupiter, Florida, and passengers Aaron Baker, 35, and Audra Green, 23, both of Columbus, Ohio, were transported to a local hospital for treatment. In addition, 2 vehicles on the road were damaged. The driver of a 2015 Chevrolet Silverado pickup truck sustained minor injuries, while everyone in the second vehicle emerged unscathed.
This must have been strikingly shocking for nearby eyewitnesses.
Absolutely. Eyewitness Brianna Walker, who was on I-75 at the time, described it as unreal, like a scene from a movie. She described watching the plane clip the top of the pickup truck, careen across the road, slam into a concrete wall and catch alight. Moments later, an explosion occurred. According to Walker, the pilot appeared to be trying to make an emergency landing on the highway.
Understandably, this is a complex investigation. What are the next steps?
The Federal Aviation Administration and the National Transportation Safety Board are currently investigating the incident. They will be examining the crash site, the wreckage, and the communications between the pilot and air traffic control prior to the crash for any clues as to what led to this devastating event. The southbound lanes near Pine Ridge Road continue to remain closed for now. It's a solemn reminder of the unpredictable nature of air travel, and our heart goes out to all those affected by this tragic event.
Soundly Human News returns in 60 seconds. Soundly Human's 24/7 news coverage returns right now.
In a whirlwind of accusations and conjecture, former President Donald Trump took aim at President Joe Biden over a potential mishandling of classified documents, going so far as to question Biden's cognitive ability. Telling supporters in South Carolina that he believed former President Barack Obama was heavily influencing Biden's presidency, Trump criticized special counsel Robert Hur's decision not to press charges against Biden. Trump suggested that the wording of Hur's report, which characterized Biden as forgetful but not criminal, was a strategic move to discredit the president's competence. Trump also accused the Justice Department of bias and what he calls politically motivated investigations against him. Despite repeated claims from Biden and the DOJ that they are operating independently of one another, Trump maintains that Biden's intent is to target him criminally. Hur's report alternatively paints a stark difference between Trump and Biden's situations involving classified documents. Biden, according to the report, cooperated, returning the documents in question and consenting to searches and interviews. Contrarily, the report suggests that Trump allegedly refused to return classified documents, sought to destroy evidence, and lied about it. In a bid to refute these recent attacks on Biden's mental fitness, the White House shared a memo outlining instances where Biden has been described as alert and sharp. It also pointed out accomplishments under his administration, like advancements in infrastructure and economy. Despite this ongoing feud, Trump and his allies remain unyielding in their campaign to engender doubts over the president's competence. Most notably, a pro-Trump political action group has released attack ads that echo Trump's accusations. However, whether these claims gain traction remains to be seen. Welcome to a special edition of Soundly Human focusing on the Chinese zodiac. This year, we bid farewell to the Year of the Rabbit and ascend into the Year of the Dragon, the only mythical creature in the Chinese zodiac. The Lunar New Year, which began on February 10th this year, sees many turning to the zodiac to predict the months ahead. In the Chinese zodiac system, not only is a year represented by a zodiac animal, it also forms a part of a complex sexagenary cycle, which incorporates heavenly stems, represented by 5 elements in 2 categories, yin or yang, and earthly branches, represented by the 12 Chinese zodiac animals. This year, we welcome the Jia Chen year, denoting the wood dragon. Specialists like Thierry Chow, a Hong Kong-based consultant blending traditional Chinese geomancy with modern design, highlight that this combination suggests that industries with a wood presence are potentially set to flourish, including culture, publishing, and floristry. In contrast, earth industries, such as property development and mining, might find themselves restricted. The dragon carries significant cultural importance, symbolizing strength and excellent leadership. This makes it a popular sign, particularly in Asia, with many people hoping for dragon babies this year. Further insightful details shed light on the unique patterns affecting each of the zodiac signs. Astrologists suggest each sign's fortune depends on the positions of the Tai Shui, stellar deities rotating parallel to, and in the opposite direction, of Jupiter. The position of the Tai Sui helps form a snapshot of the year to come. Detailed analysis from Chow also highlights the prospects of each animal sign, from the hardworking ox to the travel-ready horse, the mindful goat to the auspicious rabbit. While each individual's fortune varies based on their birth chart, these insights can play a crucial role in forming decisions like marriage or starting a business. So, whether you're a rabbit bidding farewell to your Ben Ming Neon, or a dragon stepping into the limelight, all signs point to a year of potential growth, wisdom, and, of course, a little contemplation under the stars. In a significant development, Wisconsin GOP Representative Mike Gallagher announced he will not seek re-election, joining the growing ranks of Republicans opting for an exit as the party fights to maintain its thin majority in the House of Representatives. Gallagher revealed his decision against a backdrop of increasing criticism within his own party, as he had opposed the impeachment of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Gallagher expressed in a public statement, "Electoral politics was never supposed to be a career. Congress is no place to grow old." He adamantly stands by his decision against impeachment, also criticizing House GOP leadership for placing such an impactful vote for resolution without certainty of its outcome. Only last year, the representative, now 39 years old, had declared his intention to seek re-election for Wisconsin's 8th congressional district. His decision not to run was unexpected by his own party, who believed him to be a strong GOP asset, capable of flipping a crucial Senate seat in the battleground state. Gallagher secured his 4th term in 2022, with an impressive victory margin exceeding 72%. Notably, Gallagher chairs the House Select Committee on China, earning tenure through notable bipartisan work. Also of note is the announcement by House Energy and Commerce Chairwoman Cathy McMorris Rodgers that she won't seek re-election either. As we report this, more than a dozen House Republicans have announced their retirements. Given the current balance of 219 seats to the Republicans, as opposed to Democrats' 212, these departures could significantly influence the political sway on Capitol Hill, potentially making it easier for Democrats to regain control. In 2007, renowned singer and fashion mogul Jessica Simpson faced an unjust backlash from superstitious Dallas Cowboys fans after a less than stellar performance of her then-boyfriend, Tony Romo, during a match against the Philadelphia Eagles. Fast forward to recent events, Taylor Swift's relationship with Kansas City Chiefs tight end, Travis Kelce, inspired one Chiefs supporter, Todd Chance, to emphatically welcome the popular singer's fans, the Swifties, into the Chiefs' kingdom. Chance recognized a potential similar backlash scenario, but sought to create a more inclusive and welcoming atmosphere within the fan culture. Chance's open arms and extensive knowledge of Chiefs history has not only been reciprocated warmly by the Swifties, but has also led him into the intricate world of Taylor Swift's music and storytelling. The result? An unlikely camaraderie formed between football and music fans, creating a new supportive and diverse group of supporters affectionately dubbed Chiefties. The cross-cultural introduction of Swifties into the NFL extended beyond Chance's local community. The Chiefs' Facebook page saw an increase of 400,000 followers since Swift first attended a game in September. Furthermore, the 2023 regular season registered a 9% increase in female viewership, according to Nielsen-measured stats. Swift's telltale impact of attracting new audiences to the sport was affirmed by Donna Kelce, mother to the Kansas City Chiefs superstar. She shared anecdotes of fathers thrilled that their daughters had shown newfound interest in the sport, thanks to Swift's presence. This story provides a refreshing reminder on how music and sports can unite different fan communities, fostering inclusivity, understanding, and the joy of discovering new realms of culture. Todd Chance symbolizes this bridge between different worlds, carving a space that allows diversity to flourish and camaraderies to be born. On the eve of the Senate's deliberation over a $95.3 billion foreign aid package benefiting countries like Israel and Ukraine, former President Donald Trump voiced rather strong objections. His primary argument is that any future foreign aid provided by the United States should take the form of a loan or have strings attached. His comments were shared via Truth Social this past weekend. This comes in the wake of his relentless critique of a $118 billion bipartisan border deal and foreign aid package that was ultimately rejected by Senate Republicans. The former president lauded the bill's defeat at a recent South Carolina rally, and it suggested his opposition may shape the fate of the forthcoming $95.3 billion package. The core of the proposed foreign aid will be allocated to key U.S. allies, including Ukraine and Israel, and will serve as humanitarian aid for civilians in Gaza, the West Bank, and Ukraine. James Lankford of Oklahoma, one of the Senate's more conservative members, contributed to crafting the bill. However, its future remains uncertain, with discord from the likes of GOP Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, an ardent opponent of foreign aid in general. Democrats, frustrated with Republicans for rejecting the border bill, have raised concerns about their trustworthiness as negotiating partners. They suggest a clear sway held by former President Trump concerning border security issues, and contend that the Republicans are playing into his efforts to keep the border issues under the political limelight. But despite Trump's criticism and Paul's resistance, the bill advanced to the Senate on Thursday, with a vote count of 67 to 32. The Senate is expected to work throughout the weekend for a final vote next week. However, the bill's future in the House is still nebulous, $1 billion towards humanitarian aid, and $4.8 billion in support of the Indo-Pacific region's partners, among other provisions. We will, of course, continue to provide coverage as this story evolves. Former President Donald Trump recently shocked many by stating that, if re-elected, he would not adhere to the Collective Defense Clause central to the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. This declaration was made during a rally in Conway, South Carolina, as he explained his view that any NATO member country falling short of the defense spending guideline should face whatever the hell they want from Russia. As a core principle of NATO, the promise of collective defense signifies that an attack on one member is equivalent to an attack on all. However, Trump's interpretation of NATO funding guidelines has often been criticized for lack of accuracy. While there is a guideline recommending each member state spend at least 2% of their GDP on defense, it is not a mandatory requirement, nor does it equate to bills being neglected, as Trump has suggested. As an organization, NATO runs mostly off its center budget, into which all members make contributions rather than strict defense expenditure targets. Throughout his past presidency, Trump reportedly considered withdrawing the United States from NATO several times, while also referring to the alliance as obsolete. His statements and policies often echoed Russian President Vladimir Putin's ambitions of weakening NATO. Trump's allegiance towards Putin has been a recurring theme, with the former president even challenging his own intelligence community over allegations of Russian intervention in the 2016 presidential elections. These latest comments serve to strengthen the perception of his alignment with Putin's objectives. In a significant development in U.S. politics, former Maryland Governor Larry Hogan formally announced his candidacy for the U.S. Senate. Hogan's entry into the race could significantly shake up the battle for control of the Senate, currently precariously held by Democrats with a single-seat advantage. In his announcement, Hogan stressed his commitment to fight for Maryland and repair the nation's completely broken political system. Despite his own alignment with the Republican Party, Hogan has earned a reputation for criticizing fellow party member Donald Trump, and emphasizes that he is running not to serve a singular party, but to serve his constituents. Previously, Hogan rebuffed invitations to challenge Senator Chris Van Hollen, stating he had no interest in running for the U.S. Senate. He initially contemplated a 2024 presidential run, but abandoned the idea, expressing frustrations with the political group he had joined, and concerns about potentially aiding Trump's bid for presidency. Notably, Hogan's intended shift to federal office won't be straightforward. Despite being a well-liked two-term governor, he has faced resistance from the Trump-supporting faction of the Maryland Republican Party, which largely controls the state. Observers suggest Hogan's moderate stance may not curry favor with this critical base of the party. This year's race is wide open, with Democrats Angela Alsobrooks and Representative David Trone vying to replace retiring Senator Ben Cardin. However, the Democratic stronghold in Maryland is expected to remain, presenting a further obstacle to Hogan's Senate dreams. Maryland last elected a Republican senator in 1980, and the state has been largely dominated by the Democratic Party since. Undeterred by these challenges, Hogan's campaign appears determined to capitalize on his strong track record and popularity as a former governor. As the race unfolds, all eyes will be on Hogan and the potential for a transformative change in Maryland's political landscape. Paying ode to the pioneering Gothic novelist Mary Shelley, Lisa Frankenstein, directed by Zelda Williams in her directorial debut, showcases a thrilling, absurdist take on the resurrection in the backdrop of patriarchal constraints. Adapting the concept of Barbara Shelley's Frankenstein, the piece features a shy teenager, Lisa, portrayed by Kathryn Newton, who reanimates a sad, nameless bachelor at a graveyard, turning him into a quirky monster, and finds her own transformation through this adventurous journey. Women seizing opportunities in directing is poignantly showcased, moving away from Hollywood's traditional male monopoly. Yorgos Lanthimos' Poor Things was lauded for its portrayal of a self-emergent, reanimated woman. But Lisa Frankenstein takes a step further. It delineates Lisa's complex journey from a shy teenager to a creator herself, which parallels the movie's bizarre genre shifts, ranging from teen comedy to slasher. While the rise in women directors has shown slow growth, women creators have made stunning masterpieces, from regendering the femme fatale in Saltburn, to prioritizing women's career aspirations in past lives, and of course the blockbuster, Barbie. According to a report, in 2020, 15% of the top films were directed by women. However, those numbers slumped to a mere 12% in 2023. In Lisa Frankenstein, Lisa's creation of the monster bachelor metamorphoses into a beacon of revenge against sexist violence and restrictive gender roles. The film embodies the raw, grotesque reality, underlining the struggle for female creators, both cherished and rebuked, like Mary Shelley. It leaves us questioning whether we have, in fact, progressed from Shelley's era, when wrong was synonymous with woman creator. Despite the odds, Lisa Frankenstein stands out as a significant narrative, reminiscent of a revolution in the making. In a twist of political events, the GOP rejected a highly conservative immigration bill put forth by the Democratic Party. Despite playing up to the contentious rules of the Republican Party, the Democrats admittedly emerged with no agreement and a perceived bruising of party values. GOP presidential frontrunner Donald Trump, who led the party's opposition to the bill, deemed the it horrendous on his social media platform, Truth Social. His followers in both House and Senate backed his stance, blocking the bill procedurally in the upper chamber, effectively closing off any immediate scope of immigration reform. Democrat Senator Brian Schatz from Hawaii expressed frustration at the GOP's rejection of what can only be framed as an anti-immigration legislation. Even President Biden had thrown his weight behind this bill, contradicting the robust liberal immigration policies he promised during his early tenure, namely, the protection for DACA recipients, Dreamers, and in addressing the southern border crisis. Unpalatable still, the dismissed bill advocated stringent border controls, allowing a president to completely shut down the southern border if crossings surpass a given quota, making it harder for asylum seekers to find refuge in the United States, and offering no clear future for the scenario of the Dreamers. Democrats, seen as offering compromise to their political counterparts, may be perceived as giving into policy proposals that are in contradiction to the party's values. This political tango serves as a reminder to the DNC that trying to meet Republicans on their own turf may not yield the expected results. Instead, sticking to their ethos and being vocal about their stance on immigration could be the way forward. The party, in its efforts to find common ground, may have overlooked the evolution of Republican tactics, which doesn't involve extending the olive branch. What's clear is that a party, unrelenting in its principles and capable of upholding the fundamental American moral erectus, a country built by immigrants seeking refuge and living the American dream, seems to be what voters may actually want. Democrats will have to choose whether to play by their rules or stoop to the level of their political counterparts. In our top story, Special Counsel Robert Hur's report on President Joe Biden's alleged mishandling of classified information has ignited a fresh row over the role of special counsels and their investigative reports. The controversy stems from the nature of these reports that detail negative outcomes even when charges aren't filed. On Monday, Attorney General Merrick Garland was presented with Hur's final report, according to the Justice Department. The report paints a polarizing depiction of the president's behavior, including referential language suggesting the president as an elderly man with a poor memory. The report, now fueling attacks on the president surrounding his age, is followed closely by the Justice Department and the White House's imminent decision on whether to release certain audio recordings related to the investigation. The White House has come forward, asserting that some of Hur's characterizations are gratuitous and false. However, removing these characterizations would require the Attorney General to report to Congress the information being omitted, a move that could insinuate partisanship and compromise the investigation's independence. The president's defense, along with former Attorney General Eric Holder, contend that Hur's report strays from usual procedural parameters, unfairly broadcasting negative commentary about investigation subjects who aren't facing charges. However, current and past officials state that Hur's elaboration for not charging Biden falls squarely within the guidelines for special counsels. This encapsulates the complications and controversies associated with special counsels, dating back to previous administrations. The heated discourse enveloping President Biden adds another chapter to confrontations involving special counsel investigations, not to mention its potential impact on the upcoming election. Despite the challenges, the White House has expressed a willingness to release transcripts from the investigation, pending a review for classified information. Whether they will assert executive privilege is yet to be known. We will keep you updated as the story unfolds. Stay with us. In our top story tonight, there have been claims from former President Donald Trump, now the leading Republican presidential candidate, about his and President Joe Biden's interaction with federal authorities regarding the retention and release of classified documents. Trump stated in a speech to the NRA, "I cooperated with the very unfriendly and hostile feds. I cooperated far more than Biden did." Yet, according to Fact First reports, this statement does not align with the reality. Our reporter Greg Spear has been following the developments on this story. Greg, can you summarize this for us?
Absolutely, Ruth. These claims by former President Trump that he cooperated more with federal authorities than President Biden did, and that Biden resisted their efforts, are factually incorrect. The reality is that Mr. Biden cooperated extensively during his federal investigation, whereas Mr. Trump faces charges of obstructing justice, among other related offenses. Trump had reportedly failed to return some classified documents despite requests from the National Archives and a grand jury subpoena from the Justice Department. On the flip side, Biden willingly turned in his classified documents and even consented to multiple searches of properties he owned. This level of cooperation is not seen in Trump's case.
That's quite a contrast indeed. So, does this indicate that President Biden cooperated fully with the federal authorities?
Yes, Ruth. Special Counsel Robert Hur, who oversaw Biden's investigation, pointed out that Biden cooperated thoroughly. He handed in classified documents, allowed several searches, gave a voluntary interview, and even answered written queries. Biden's representatives went to the extent of sparking the probe by self-reporting classified material discovered in an office Biden had used. Now, if we contrast this with Trump's behavior, the differences are blatantly clear. Despite multiple opportunities, Trump repeatedly failed to return the classified documents, and according to the indictment, he allegedly attempted to obstruct justice.
That certainly paints a very different picture to the claims made by former President Trump. Based on these allegations, could Trump face further charges?
While that's a possibility, Ruth, these are presently allegations and have not yet been proven in court. However, considering the indictment's assertions about Trump's efforts to obstruct justice, this situation could further complicate Trump's legal circumstances. As of now, no such allegations about improper handling of classified documents exist about President Biden.
In a transformative shift, the National Football League, NFL, is preparing to host its first Super Bowl in Las Vegas this Sunday, a city that bustles with the spirit of gambling. This move signifies a stark departure from the league's past policy of distancing itself from this industry. Betting on football goes back to when it was a semi-pro sport, essentially driving visibility and indirectly contributing to revenue, despite the NFL's endeavor to maintain a perceived divide between the sport and gaming. The change in the NFL's approach is apparent as it teams up with companies concentrating on sports gambling. However, it upholds policies that can fine or suspend any player betting at Nevada's numerous casinos or league games, highlighting the contradictory narrative in play. Victor Matheson, professor of economics at the College of the Holy Cross, brings attention to this stark hypocrisy considering sports betting's prominence in Nevada, which, until a Supreme Court decision in 2018, was the only state where it was legal. Highlighting the shift post this court decision, Matheson states, "The leagues went all in. This decision opened up channels for betting sites such as Caesars, FanDuel, and DraftKings to enter official partnerships with NFL, akin to the league's agreements with sponsors like Bud Light. Caesars Entertainment even holds the title of the official casino sponsor of the NFL. Despite not claiming a portion of the amount wagered with these companies, the NFL and its TV rights holders, who pay the league over $13 billion annually for game broadcasts, have substantially profited from legal gaming industry advertisements. The monetary involvement of fans in games is considered integral for retaining viewership in the competitive landscape of networks and streaming services. This perspective is bolstered by the American Gaming Association's estimate of 68 million Americans betting a total of $23 billion on the Super Bowl, a whopping 44% increase from the previous year. However, not every NFL expert views this trend indiscriminately. Professor Emeritus of Economics at Smith College, Andrew Zimbalist, suggests that the financial risks for people with gambling addictions and the potential detrimental effects on viewer engagement present challenges for sports leagues. In summary, as the NFL willingly embraces the sports betting sector, it navigates a complex relationship between economic gain and maintaining the intrinsic value of the sport for its fans. In a fusion of ancient tradition and modern entertainment, Canterbury Cathedral, one of the UK's oldest and most revered religious sites, found itself bathed in colour, resonating to the music of the 90s during 2 silent discos recently. This foray into the realm of unconventional celebration sparked delight in some, criticism in others. The cathedral, known as the seat of Britain's most senior bishop, the Archbishop of Canterbury, saw hundreds of participants dancing the night away with headphones that serenaded them directly with 90s hits. The event created what the cathedral described on social media as a fantastic atmosphere, quickly selling out the 3,000 available tickets. Despite the innovative event's popularity, Christian protesters voiced their objections, pointing out that a disco seemed out of place within the sacred precincts of this religious monument. Over 1,700 people signed a petition to halt the event. Yet, the Dean of Canterbury, the Very Reverend Dr. David Monteith, insisted that the disco upheld the respect due to the cathedral, while opening up engagement with the wider community. Monteith reiterated that cathedrals have always functioned beyond being mere centers of Christian worship, serving as vital keystones of community life. Silent discos in incredible places, the organizer of the 90s-themed event, also mentioned their association with more than half of Britain's renowned cathedrals. Critics and supporters alike are watching to see where the beat drops next. In major climate news, a crucial system of ocean currents may be on a trajectory towards total collapse, according to a groundbreaking study featured in the journal Science Advances. Researchers from Utrecht University have used intricate supercomputing systems to detect early warning signs for the potential breakdown of these influential currents, signifying an advancement in oceanic science. Known as the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, or AMOC, this system, integral to the Gulf Stream, plays a pivotal role in distributing heat and nutrients globally, significantly impacting the Northern Hemisphere's climate. Warmer ocean temperatures and melting ice due to climate change are threatening the balance of heat and salt, thus affecting the strength of this current flow. This new study represents a major step in discovering the potential ramifications of what could be a catastrophic collapse. Although the study did not give an exact timeline, it alarmingly demonstrates that as freshwater increases, such as with ice melt, the currents are weakening until an abrupt catastrophic collapse. The study's co-author, René van Westen, stated that human-induced climate change is indeed pushing us towards the critical point of this happening. The study suggests the consequences could include a stark temperature decrease in parts of Europe of up to 30 degrees Celsius over a century, increased warming in southern hemisphere, ecological disruption in the Amazon, and possibly a surge in sea levels up to around a meter. However, several scientists have reminded us of the need for caution in interpreting the study's results, suggesting that the research may not fully capture the complexity of the current system. Despite this, many experts believe the study makes an important contribution to our understanding of the perils climate change poses to our global systems. So, experts warn, while we may not yet have a detailed picture of when or precisely how these drastic changes will happen, this study highlights the frightening risk we face. As the world heats up due to anthropogenic climate change, This research increasingly underscores that we ignore the possibilities of these global system collapses at our own peril. Stay with us as we continue to inform and guide you through this alarming threat and others. We must face climate challenges as informed global citizens. Welcome, viewers. Special Counsel Robert Hur's recently released report, which spans 350 pages, brought a mixed bag of news for President Biden's re-election campaign. The report concludes that no charges will be brought against the president for retaining and disclosing classified information post-vice presidency, marking a victory for Biden. However, it seems like the true battle lies within the detailing of the report. Drawing on interview data collected in October, Hur's report paints Biden as a well-meaning, elderly man with a poor memory, noting a number of occasions where he displayed confusion about his term as vice president. Stamina and sharpness, public concern around his capabilities, amplified by his on-air appearances, puts his re-election run in shaky territories. However, there's a flip side to this narrative, which highlights significant legislative victories and global leadership initiatives under the Biden administration. These achievements, which have unfortunately been sidelined, reflect his capabilities. Observing these circulating narratives, it's evident that the president's re-election campaign will require a robust, consistent message to combat lingering doubts. As Republicans rally round Trump, a potentially formidable opponent despite his own share of controversies, the campaign battlefield is heating up. It's essential for Team Biden to